Draft beer, also spelt draught, is beer served from a cask or keg rather than from a bottle or can. Canned draft is beer served from a pressurized container containing a widget. Smooth flow is the name brewers give to draft beers pressurized with a partial nitrogen gas blend. Etymology and usage: until Joseph Brummer patented the beer engine in 1785, beer was served directly from the barrel and carried to the customer. The Old English word for carry or pull was dragon, which developed into a series of related words, including drag, draw, and draught. By extension, the word for carrying or drawing a beer came to mean the serving of the beer and, in some senses, the act of drinking, or a drink of beer itself, regardless of serving method. By the time Brummer's beer pumps became popular, the use of the term draught to refer to the act of serving beer was well established and transferred easily to beer served via the hand pumps. Draught is the usual spelling in the United Kingdom, Ireland and Australia. Draught is the usual spelling in North America, although it may be spelt both ways in Canada and Australia. Draught and draft can each be pronounced or depending on the region the speaker is from. History: in 1691, an article in the London Gazette mentioned John Lofting, who held a patent for a fire engine. The said patentee has also projected a very useful engine for starting of beer, and other liquors which will draw from 20 to 30 barrels an hour, which are completely fixed with brass joints and screws at reasonable rates. In the early 20th century, draft beer started to be served from pressurized containers. Artificial carbonation was introduced in the United Kingdom in 1936, with what new Euro unregistered trademark as experimental pasteurized beer red barrel. Though this method of serving beer did not take hold in the UK until the late 1950s, it did become the favored method in the rest of Europe, where it is known by such terms as impression. The carbonation method of serving beer subsequently spread to the rest of the world. By the early 1970s, the term draft beer almost exclusively referred to beer served under pressure as opposed to the traditional cask or barrel beer. In Britain, the Campaign for Real Ale was founded in 1971 to protect traditional, unpressurized beer and brewing methods. The group devised the term real ale to differentiate between beer served from the cask and beer served under pressure. The term real ale has since been expanded to include bottle-conditioned beer. Keg beer. Keg beer is a term for beer which is served from a pressurized keg. Keg beer is often filtered and/or pasteurized, both of which are processes that render the yeast inactive. A tap hole near the edge of the top, and a spiral hole on the side used for conditioning the unfiltered and unpasteurized beer. A keg has a single opening in the center of the top to which a flow pipe is attached. Kegs are artificially pressurized after fermentation with carbon dioxide or a mixture of carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas. Keg has become a term of contempt used by some, particularly in Britain, since the 1960s when pasteurized draft beers started replacing traditional cask beers. Keg beer was replacing traditional cask ale in all parts of the UK, primarily because it requires less care to handle. Since 1971, the Campaign for Real Ale has conducted a consumer campaign on behalf of those who prefer traditional cask beer. CAMRA has lobbied the British Parliament to ensure support for cask ale, and microbreweries have sprung up to serve those consumers who prefer traditional cask beer. Pressurized CO2 in the keg's headspace maintains carbonation in the beer. The CO2 pressure varies depending on the amount of CO2 already in the beer and the keg storage temperature. Occasionally the CO2 gas is blended with nitrogen gas. CO2/nitrogen blends are used to allow a higher operating pressure in complex dispensing systems. Nitrogen is used under high pressure when dispensing dry stouts and other creamy beers because it displaces CO2 to form a rich tight head and a less carbonated taste. This makes the beer feel smooth on the palate and gives a foamy appearance. Pre-mixed bottled gas for creamy beers is usually 75% nitrogen and 25% CO2. This pre-mixed gas, which only works well with creamy beers, is often referred to as Guinness gas, beer gas, or Allagall. Using beer gas with other beer styles can cause the last 5% to 10% of the beer in each keg to taste very flat and lifeless. In the UK, the term keg beer would imply the beer is pasteurized, in contrast to unpasteurized cask beer. Some of the newer microbreweries may offer a nitrokeg stout which is filtered but not pasteurized. Storage and serving temperature. Cask beer should be stored and served at a cellar temperature of 12 degrees Celsius. Once a cask is opened, it should be consumed within 3 days. Keg beer is given additional cooling just prior to being served either by flash coolers or a remote cooler in the cellar. This chills the beer down to temperatures between 3 degrees Celsius and 8 degrees Celsius. Canned and bottled draft. The words draught and draught have been used as marketing terms to describe canned or bottled beers, implying that they taste and appear like beers from a cask or keg. Commercial brewers use this as a marketing tool, although it is incorrect to call any beer not drawn from a cask or keg draught. 2 examples are Miller Genuine Draught, a pale lager which is produced using a patented cold filtering system, and Guinness Stout in patented draft flow cans and bottles. Guinness is an example of beers that use a nitrogen widget to create a smooth beer with a very dense head. Guinness has recently replaced the widget system from their bottled draft beer with a coating of cellulose fibers on the inside of the bottle. Statements indicate a new development in bottling technology enables the mixture of nitrogen and carbon dioxide to be present in the beer without using a widget, making it, according to Guinness, more drinkable from the bottle. In some countries such as Japan, the term draft applied to canned or bottled beer indicates that the beer is not pasteurized, giving it a fresher taste but shorter shelf life than conventional packaged beers. See also: cask ale, beer tap. References. External links: Draft beer information, lots of information regarding draft beer storage and equipment. Irish specification, PDF version of the Irish draft beer specification.